All right, you guys, you wouldn't believe it. We're back with another community member interview. We are here with Noah from Iowa, who just had I might get this wrong. I think you said like 14.8K. Was that right?
14.2.
14.2. I know you were like right on the edge of 15. So you did 4K appointment setting, but that was your first like 10K plus month, right?
Yeah, that was.
Cool. So first 5-figure month in the remote setting space. When did you jump into the space? What month was it?
I joined the community back in January, but like some other folks do, like I was a little bit slow to get rolling just in terms of like I wanted to make sure I had a good grasp on the space. So like I grinded through all of the, materials in the community and was joining all of the training and like office hour calls and then started applying to jobs like early February, and got into like a smaller role back in February, that didn't end up, panning out to exactly what I thought it was going to be, and joined this offer like back in May. And so this is like month three was where I finally broke out.
Yeah, so for you guys listening to kind of catch you up to speed, and we'll talk more about this, but previously after college, Noah was selling solar for a year and a half. So probably relatable to some of y'all watching this, whether it was solar or just like door to door pounding the pavement. Um, I'm familiar with that coming from like the roofing space. So this is definitely an upgrade. And then one thing that's cool about what you had going on and what you have going on is you still run a business on the side that you kind of, I'm not going to say you outsource the business, but you have a team that like really helps you run the day to day. And it's a lighting business. And we can definitely talk about how we're getting into the busy season here and how you're managing that alongside crushing a near K month. So let's start with like just getting into sales in the first place and getting into solar. I don't know if that was your first sales job or just like the most relevant, but why did you even decide to get into sales in the first place?
Yeah. I like honestly I'd always had the bug, like even as a kid, like always looking for deals, like selling things. But I actually ran into some guys in college who like had some connections with dudes in door to door down in Texas. So like I spent a lot of my senior year of college actually like traveling back and forth to Texas and like doing blitzes with them. And I mean, literally the day after I graduated school, I moved out to the Northeast and started doing door to door full time. So that was like my introductory sales role, was like flying down to Texas and doing blitzes. And then, I mean, fully immersed, right, for like a full 18 months, 1,000 miles away from home type thing. And it was a great experience, right? Like anyone who's done door to door or like heard the lore of door to door, like it really is probably the best place to cut your teeth in terms of sales. Like, I mean, you literally get rejected every single day and you're walking miles. So like, you're working for what you do. But like, I immediately was turned on to the fact that like I graduated college and in 3 months I made like 45, 50K. Granted, the work that went into it, that's another story. Since I've discovered high ticket, I would literally never go back. But the earning potential was great and I loved that. I would say one thing that early on turned me off a little bit from the space was the sales cycle and just the overall work put in, contract being signed, right? So like most solar deals, you're looking at, a month for permitting, and then another month to actually get an install date set up, and like, 2 to 3 months from contract signing to getting paid on a deal. So that was something that, always kind of turned me off from it, is that there's a lot of places to not even necessarily lose a deal, but just you're always waiting, and it's a lot more pipeline focused than like generating new deals. And that's completely different in high ticket.
Yeah. So you went to school for finance and immediately after school, you just went to go sell solar. I don't think you originally went to school for finance to sell solar. Like, what were you going to do with that degree?
Yeah, for sure. Like I have some family that are in finance, and like, I had some roles available at, like large corporate accounting and financial firms. And like I had done interviews and like gone through the process, like fully had like an offer with Deloitte, and decided to pass on it just because like even in the couple blitz I had done with solar, like I loved the experience, like the A player mindset that comes with like those hard door to door sales guys. That was super attractive, like the high energy. You're not dealing with like the robotic drones that had been interviewing me for these finance roles. So I think that like it was kind of love at first sight when I first started to get into sales instead of looking at the 40-year corporate grind.
That makes sense, man. Obviously, it's working out pretty decently for you right now. Um, so you're doing solar, you're starting to realize there's something like this is good, I'm making money, but there's some things that could be better. And that's kind of my experience too. Is like I'm making money, but like what if this was better? And that's like kind of that sales guy, like entrepreneurial mindset, like always trying to like do the next thing or get better or make more or whatever. Like it's always trying to improve, right? What were you looking at when you realized, hey, I think I should expand out of solar? There's a lot of different things you could sell. You did start a lighting business, but when you were looking out towards like other sales jobs, maybe you looked at like, I don't know, real estate, insurance, tech, cars, probably not cars. What made you decide to land on high ticket and like fully pursue that versus any other type of sales?
Dude, to be completely honest, it was following you. I don't even know if you remember this, but like I had been in contact with you like early 2024, after just like going through the first full season of solar and like, I mean, lived in the Northeast, moved to Texas, moved to Kansas for a little bit. And I was just like already starting to feel the burnout. And so like I've been kind of communicating with you, like, what's all this stuff about? And thinking that, down the road, like maybe that's going to be the best option. But never ended up pulling the trigger through like all of last summer, like, trained a new squad of setters to knock doors for us and like kind of had the whole like, become like a area manager and then like, regional manager. And like that was kind of getting set up. Things just like I was saying with like the back end stuff and really the grind of door to door. A lot of our team just was feeling that burnout. And so like I started the lighting business with one of the guys that had also been successful selling solar. And like, I guess we wanted to try something on our own, right? Because one of those things where you just have to know, right? And it ended up doing well. But we always knew it was going to be a seasonal business, right? Like we had debated some other like home services businesses, like, like gutter, window cleaning, that type of thing. But we knew we didn't want to be like in the door to door space, right? So like trying to figure out the happy medium there. And obviously, like, went pretty well, had an install crew, weren't having to spend like, every single day, like doing the installs, started to figure out both the sales and the logistical side and like the customer service aspect of owning a business. And then, after the holiday season, like obviously I'd been talking to you more and more as that kind of winded down. And then, yeah, just finally ended up pulling the trigger in January and, like really haven't looked back since.
This is a good segue into kind of, all right, now you're in high ticket. Let's talk about the ups and downs, right? Because if anyone's on here on social media or whatever, like not telling you anything potentially bad or difficult or any, like it's just not true, right? Like we are talking about commission based sales roles, remote 1099. Like there are ups and downs without a doubt. The objective is to make the ups happen more frequently and make them larger than the downs. And that's kind of what we aim to do. But so you came in, really hit the ground running in February, landed the current job in, you said May, right?
Yeah.
And so this was not your first job in this space. So I want to talk a little bit about the first job you had, why you took it, how it ended up panning out, and why you decided to move on from that, because it's a very common thing that you have to go through in this space. So can you talk a little bit about that like first experience that you had?
Okay. Yeah. So I obviously door to door started a lighting business, had spent a lot of time in direct, like, selling to consumers, right? Residential sales. And I found a B2B like marketing services offer. And I had thought like, okay, I definitely want to jump over to like the B2B side of things. And so that's how I, actually kind of looked into that role. It was literally the first application that I put out. Granted, I put out like 30 of them, but it was the first one that I like filmed a Loom video for, and like really locked in for like the interview and everything. And it was like a relatively new, like getting off the ground offer. Like I was working directly with the two owners of the agency. It was an amazing experience as far as like opening my eyes to the high ticket space overall, right? Because we were selling a product to other high ticket businesses, right? That were in turn selling their product or service to consumers or other businesses, right? So I got like essentially like a flood of information about like not only like how to do digital marketing, and like I'm, even though the role didn't end up working out, super confident in the offer. I like really were selling like a great product and helping out a lot of folks. But I learned pretty quickly with B2B, sometimes it can be the same thing that I was kind of trying to get away from with solar, which is a longer sales cycle, right? More of a relationship building game. We didn't have quite like the footprint or like the, just online rapport for, businesses to immediately trust us. So, doing, 2, 3, 4 triage calls a lot of times, to actually get them on the phone with one of our owners, which obviously great experience learning how to like rip through a dialer, like actually, pounding numbers, and booking appointments. Wanted to like, the reason why I ended up transitioning was like, I knew I needed to be back with like a team, right? Like with more structure and support and like everyone wanting to get after it, and just was starting to feel a little bit like siloed and back to where I was, months before.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I remember when you took on that role and kind of discussing it before, and like the people that you're working with had a really good track record. But what you said about, the B2B space, it can be like high volume, really fast sales cycle, all the great things that you find in B2C, but it's not always that. And so I think you probably made the right move, in hindsight, right? Like, 'cause we're here right now. But when you were leaving that offer and going to your next offer, what were you looking out for? Like, after having that experience, what did you go and seek out that was missing from the offer that you were on to make sure that you didn't end up in the same situation?
Yep. Great question. And one thing I will say just before even jumping there is like, one really big thing I learned when I left that role is like, stay close with offer owners. Cause like they're still both like the homies, and
Right.
like super cordial with them, and like they're very connected in this space. And I feel like a lot of this space is interconnected, and people know each other. So I think like one thing that I wanted to tell people is like, don't burn bridges in this space, because like everyone does have something to offer. Like everyone's trying to do their best, and it's, you're gonna meet that guy again, or you're gonna meet a guy that knows that guy. So like overall, just like build relationships, right? Like everyone knows this is, like network is net worth, eh? So I feel like it's huge to just keep those connections and leveraging up from there. But like, kind of like I mentioned, I was attracted to solar originally for like the A player, high energy, like everyone wants to get better, not even just at sales, but like also on a personal development level, like 1% better every day, right? Like really grinding both on and off calls to like better ourselves in business and as people. So, honestly, like I had a passion for real estate, right? And like I knew that long term I would eventually be getting into real estate, and I'm now on a real estate offer. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds, where beyond leaving an offer that was brand new, right? Like just getting off the ground, I'm now with a very tenured, like premium service in the space for real estate. So I feel like it really did like sync up perfectly with having a team, the structure, support of, like very experienced high ticket guys, and just like being able to level up that way.
Yeah, that offer that you're on, we've had like multiple, I'll call it classes of people in the community go through there and like get their stride and hit those first like big months. And I know exactly what you're talking about. Like in the high ticket space, one of the benefits is you can kind of be like autonomous, not that many meetings, whatever, if you like that. But some people, dude, they're just like, I want to have a sense of like camaraderie. I want to work hard. I'm not saying the autonomous person doesn't want to work hard, but it's like there's definitely something to like that big like team environment where everyone's pushing each other. You're talking every single day. It's fun, man. Like especially when you're in your young late teens, early 20s, mid 20s, and you have not much better to do than just work and like be the best version of yourself and develop your skills. I was on one of those teams, like the first closing role that I had, and I feel like I got so much better so fast because the feedback loop was so tight. Like every single day, dude, we're looking at the calls from the day before and we would have to like call out our projections. And if we didn't hit the projections, we would like kind of get grilled in front of the whole team. Like stuff that, you know, if you're not doing a good job kind of makes you a little nervous, but like it definitely helps you improve. I guess with your offer now, so you came off 14.2K a month. There was a little bit of a ramp period to get there, right? Like it's not like every month has been five figures. We're not declaring that every month after will be, even though we would love that, right? But what do you think allowed you to really excel in that role? Because if I know my information right, you were the top guy in that role this past month. So like, what do you think that like really helped you get there?
Yeah, kind of right what you said. Shout out to the guys that I started solar with because we used to record every interaction like on the doors and everything. So I was already in tune with how important and impactful it is to do call reviews, right? And we do call reviews every day, right? And like there is a leaderboard, right? You're very aware of where you're at with the team. And also everyone has access to each other's calls, right? So like immediately what I started doing was there was a guy who was performing significantly better than everyone else on the team. Every single time he would have a deal close, I would literally go listen to the setting call and write down takeaways and then implement it on my calls. And just literally rinse and repeating with whoever was the top guy of the week, the month, the day, and essentially building up not only like obviously getting a ton of reps in on the phones, but like having more intention with all of the reviews and training that I was doing, which I think like obviously there was a bit of a ramp up period, but like I think that directly contributed to like where I'm at now. And I frankly, I can't imagine ever dropping under a 10K month now, you know, because both, and dude, like beyond just listening to setting calls, right? Like I'm setting now, obviously like outlook is to transition into a closing role in this space, potentially on this offer. So like I listen to the discovery parts of closing calls, right? Like I'm literally just taking in as much information as I possibly can and, you know, being as intentional with the actions that I am taking, right? Like with massive action, the results will only delay for so long, right? Eventually they're going to come.
Yeah, I should have asked you this when we were on the topic, so I'm going to ask you now. But when you were in solar, were you closing or setting?
I started as a setter. I did like 2 million in revenue as a setter over like a 9-month period and then transitioned into a closing role. And for the last year that I was in solar, I was closing and also like traveling around recruiting new kids to set and like training setters. So it's kind of like a hybrid of like setter manager and closing.
So this is I think some good perspective. You could have come into this industry and made the case that you're a closer, you only want to be a closer. A lot of people do that. Why did you decide to set? I mean, look, if someone extended you an awesome closing role, you probably would have taken it. But why did you decide to go after those setting roles right out of the gate versus closing?
Yeah, great question. And it's because I wanted to be on a good offer, right? Like, and I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time going through the application interview process, which, like, part of the reason why I was so attracted to this community, right? Is like, not only do you guys have like everyone's shouting each other out, like helping each other with referrals, but also like just streamlining the process of getting into a role. So I feel like I didn't want to hang up myself by waiting for the perfect closing role when I was very confident in my ability to jump in on literally any offer and be able to set appointments at a high level. And just so happened that this role encourages upward mobility, like from going from setter to closer, and the earning potential is as high as, you know, a lot of closing roles out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you explained exactly what I like. I work with every single person that comes through, usually like one on one. And the people that come in like you, it is kind of a matter of like, do you want to get started faster and just get into something solid and start building your resume in this space so you can be a more competitive applicant? Or do you want to hold out for a certain job title? You know, if you can land it in a decent amount of time, you will do well, but it's not guaranteed that you land the one you want in the time you want, right? So you kind of have to weigh out your options and be like, well, you know, if my objective is to just start making $6,000 a month and I don't really care about the title, like it's so much easier to land a quality setting role versus quality closing when you don't have the industry experience. So that I'm glad you said that, because that's like something I talk with every single person that comes through. All right. So you obviously good month now. I'd assume you're pacing a good month this month. So I mean, it's early in the month, but you know, not everything was smooth sailing from the very beginning. If you had to start over, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently to either condense the time to get to the result, or save yourself time, get to the result faster, and just continue scaling from there?
Yep. I'm glad you asked, because one of my biggest pieces of advice is, and I frankly I don't know if this is good or bad advice. Don't be afraid to leave an offer. So right in line with like stay in good graces. Like if it's not a good fit for you, what your goals are or what the lifestyle is that you're looking for, like don't be afraid to move on, right? Because like the first 3 months, right, I was in a role, the B2B role, that just it wasn't cutting it. And I knew after really like the first 3 weeks that it probably wasn't going to be like the place where I would stay for, 6, 12 plus months, and just kept sticking it out and like, still putting in like really long hours trying to make it work, and essentially wasting time, right? It's like looking back, if I would have been on this offer 3 months prior, my K month would have came back in June, right? So like start sooner, take massive action. When I do something, like I'm very big on going all in, and I went all in this community, and then I feel like I just got a little bit slowed down by staying on that offer for too long. So I think when it's not a good fit, realize it, make the correction, and don't be afraid to start application blasting while you're still in a role and like find something else.
Sure. I want to set a good expectation here around the workload. You know, you had a big month, and some people might be looking at like high ticket sales, remote setting, or closing, thinking, oh yeah, I can do 20K a month and work 2 hours a day. 1% result like that does exist. But I mean, dude, most of the times to make a really competitive income in remote sales rep, like you're going to be working a lot. So can you shed some light on what the workload is like for you in this current period?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like I work a lot, right? But I have the schedule that I want. And that is the most important thing to me, right? Like I get up in the morning, I go work out, I get my coffee, I jump on our morning meeting, and like honestly just flow of the day, right? Like jump on our morning meeting, after meeting, like typically following up with leads that are on the calendar for coming days, like sending nurture, and then ripping dials, right? And like dialing, between 50, 200 leads a day. Outside of that, like perks of being in like a really tenured offer is, a lot of people book calls directly on my calendar as well. So I'm also like triaging discovery calls that are booked directly with me. And so it's really like time blocking for, like a solid hour for dialing. And then I'll have some discovery calls booked, and then back on dials, following up with old leads. But like I'm still putting in, like 8 to 10, sometimes longer days. And like, that's what I want to be doing, right? Like I leave my calendar open when other people have their calendar closed, specifically so I am the for sure person that's going to get booked.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
Setting roles feel like are definitely, it takes a little bit more grind to hit those big months usually, unless you have like a really leveraged setting role, which is kind of rare. But like exactly what you said, man. It's like, what else am I going to be doing? You know, this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And you said like, you don't want to be a setter forever. You eventually want to get into closing, and when you get into closing, you're earning a higher commission percent. You have a little bit more leverage over the calendar. What is your favorite thing that you've been able to experience since you've been in the high ticket space that is not necessarily like money related?
That's a good question. Outside of money, I would say like our offer is very solid. So like at nights, I'm literally going through like our offer as though I'm a customer. Right. Cause like eventually I want to own properties, right? And like own real estate. And I'm very confident that our process works. And it's like I'm literally in works with one of my colleagues now of like we're gonna get under contract on a property and like make something happen in the real estate space, right? So like this is beyond sales, right? Like this
Wow.
is generational wealth building at this point, and that's was always the long term goal, right? Is to build wealth. So I feel like I'm in like kind of primed in a spot to be able to do that. And I would say the next thing I'm excited for is getting down to Austin and seeing all the boys at the meetup.
Yeah, man, that's going to be awesome. So we talked about it before, but this episode of this interview is probably going to come out literally the day before. And I think you're really going to be, in your town now where you're at, in your neighborhood, there's probably nobody that really actually understands this. Maybe there is one person, two people if you're lucky. But when you get down and there's people from all over the world who are there for that, you're like, wow, this is big time. Like, yeah, it just really opens your eyes and it fires you up, and you leave like just so stoked to get back and grind. I was gonna say, shoot, what were you just talking about before that? I was gonna say using the product. So dude, that's one of the cool, like kind of unspoken things, but we've had people come through and be on trading offers and do 5-figure months with like trading stuff. We've had people do rental properties before. We've had people get on like small business acquisition offers and literally buy businesses and stop closing to run the business. Um, so that's definitely an unspoken benefit, and real estate is not a bad one to be getting into. So I know we're kind of pushing up on time here. What's your message to anyone that's on the fence about the high ticket space altogether?
Jump in. Like if you're committed to yourself, like it really isn't committed to sales or like working hard. Like if you're committed to building something more than just you, jump into high ticket sales. I honestly cannot think of a better place to like build experience, connections, and be able to actually start to see what other opportunities are out there beyond sales, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone in this space is big on personal development, brand development, like making yourself the best person possible. So like if that's where you want to be, like if you have an upward trajectory and you picture yourself being generationally wealthy, like jump into high ticket, go all in. Like don't have like, restrictions, just dive in, commit to yourself, right? There's no one else that's going to hold you accountable at the end of the day except you, right? And it's important to start. You have to start somewhere, right? And so I can't think of a better place than, specifically the serial sales community. Like shout out to you guys massively. Like, wouldn't be anywhere near the position that I am without you guys. So super grateful to the community and like, yeah, go all in.
Yeah. No, man, there's one thing that I see consistently limit the success that they get and how fast they get it is when they have like really weird schedule availability or really weird limiting factors that are usually schedule related. And if you can get to the point where you see that proof of concept and then just go all in and commit, hypothetical situation. If you woke up tomorrow and the business owner was like, hey, I changed my mind. I hate real estate. I don't want to do this anymore. Dude, you now have you have a community, but you have like your team, you have manager, like you only have to build that network and that insurance policy once. And now that you're the guy that's capable of the just basically 15K a month, it's like, there's a lot of people that would like love to have you on the team, as a setter, not even to mention as a closer when you get there. So, I think going all in that's what I did. That's what you did. Honestly, a lot of the people that we film these with, that's what they did. So, I think that's a good spot to wrap it up. If I'm going to ask you after, if you want me to include any of your links, they'll be down in the description. If you guys want to reach out to him, you can always reach him in the community. And that's pretty much it, man. I appreciate you running this.
Yeah, dude. I appreciate you having me anytime.
For sure.